Hey, howdy ho, all you fine shits out there. Damn, I tried saying that with a straight face. I couldn't, bro, because I'm so fucking excited, dude. It's
All right,
Spider-Man brand new
no,
day
yeah, calm
release
down.
week. Dude, it's fucking Spider-Man. The
No, I
best
no no
character
no
in
I agree with
all of
you.
cinematic comic, any fucking history that a fictional character has been made for. He's the best. Better than Batman, better than Superman. I want to start fights with DC and Marvel minds alike about this opinion. Sorry, I figured I'd just come out hot on this one.
No, man,
I'm pet, bro. Spider-Man is
that
the
was very
one, like,
steaming.
dude, the Spider-Man character, anything he's in is the one thing I'm like genuinely passionate about when I talk about him. Like any of his movies, like dude, I will sit here and defend the Amazing Spider-Man 2 with my life.
All right, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Okay,
Dude, I'd much rather
we're
watch that than Spider-Man 3 any day of the week.
that's interesting. Yeah, I don't know if I would agree with you on that one.
That's fine. I know it's a hot take, bro, but I'm gonna sit on that throne.
We
and,
did almost do that version of Spider-Man for this episode, but
dude, that would have been whenever we do it, it's gonna be a wacky episode.
no, it is. It's they're wacky movies, so it's got to be a wacky episode. But
The second one's wacky. The first one takes itself way too seriously, which is what I appreciate
they both take
about
themselves
it.
way too seriously. But
That's what makes the second one so good because it's so unserious. Like,
I don't know about that. But yeah,
do you not see the Green Goblin in that film?
All right.
And I'm only focusing so much on some of the previous ones just because we're gonna get to No Way Home in this episode, and I'm trying to prepare people for like all the nostalgia bombing that's probably gonna go on, as if you didn't get a shit ton of it for the whole year that that movie was gonna come out.
Listen, I made my dad watch because he had never seen the Amazing Spider-Man movies. He did watch the first one, and then I did have to buy the Blu-ray of the Amazing Spider-Man 2 so that he could watch it because I don't think it was on anything, but I did have to show it to him in preparation for No Way Home because he hadn't seen it. So I was like, we need to watch this.
I want you to think about this too, Leo. The entire time we talk about this Tom Holland trilogy in preparation for Brand New Day this week, I want you to think in the back of your head. I'm going to be asking you this one question. Who is your Spider-Man at the end of this show? Because I feel like it could get juicy.
Okay, but like,
what
when you say that, do you mean like who do I think the best version of Spider-Man is? Are you asking me which one?
When someone asks you, why do you like Spider-Man? Who's the first actor that comes to your mind?
Well, I mean, here's the thing. I don't. To me, the reason I don't like Spider-Man has nothing to do with the actor. But
No, I'm talking about when it comes to the films.
I've never consumed anything outside of the film Spider-Man related.
You never like watched the old '90s animated show?
The only animated stuff that I've seen for Spider-Man is Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. It's the only Spider-Man show that I've seen.
Stop this. You have Disney Plus, right?
Yes.
Okay. On Disney Plus, they're 20-minute episodes. I need you to turn on.
Yeah, I know what a cartoon is, bro.
No, bro. Literally need you to watch any episode of that original '90s Spider-Man.
But doesn't he sound like
cartoon.
Superman or something? Like he has a really deep voice.
Dude, it is one of the most iconic intro songs of all time. Have you heard it?
Obviously I've heard it, but like
I'm not sure, bro, because apparently the only media of Spider-Man you've ever taken in were these movies. So,
I mean, pretty much. Like I've read a couple of like panels of the like I've read the first. I'm pretty sure I've read the first issue of like the very first Spider-Man comic. This was a while ago though, so I don't remember a lot from it. But no, yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I didn't grow up with comic books. And I never really got into it. I think for me, the thing about the comic book stuff is that I don't really know where to begin. And I've tried to start in different places, and I've immediately kind of been thrown off by not understanding what's happening because there was something else that I was supposed to have read. But I don't know, it's a thing. But yeah, that's a rabbit hole that we don't have to go down. I've seen some things. And it also didn't help that I didn't have cable growing up. So the only reason that I've seen Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends is because I think my dad had them like on VHS or something, and so he would put it on for mainly me, but my brother would be there too. And I really like Spider-Man, so I would watch that stuff. But yeah, I don't know. I wouldn't say I'm an expert on like the comics or anything. But I do really enjoy the movies. I understand your passion. I'm very passionate about it too. Spider-Man is my favorite superhero.
No, yeah, he is my favorite superhero.
I grew so that's the thing. Like when you said who is my Spider-Man, to me the first thing that I think of is the one that I grew up watching, which was Tobey Maguire. Like, dude, I still have the copy of the DVD copy of Spider-Man that I grew up watching. And I used to play that movie so much. I fucking loved Spider-Man. Spider-Man was so fucking cool to me. Like leagues cooler than Batman ever was. And so yeah, I mean I was super excited when The Amazing Spider-Man came out. It was okay when I first saw it. Um yeah, I mean, The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is a whole other thing. But I was extremely excited when I found out that Spider-Man was going to be in the MCU. I was like, oh my fucking god, I have been waiting for this to happen. I was so excited, and I loved Tom Holland's interpretation. I would say of the live action stuff, he's probably my favorite Spider-Man. But obviously it gets a little confusing when you add in like the Spider-Verse and whatnot. But so yeah,
Yeah,
my Spider-Man is Tobey Maguire. I love those movies. I grew up watching them. I love Sam Raimi. Like that's one of the reasons why I got into movies. And I think Sam Raimi's style is very distinct for the original Spider-Man trilogy. And when Spider-Man 3 came out, dude, I loved that shit. I ate that shit up. It was incredible. It was an incredible time for me when that movie came out. I'm trying to remember what year did it come out, because I remember it being a big deal.
2007.
At the time I didn't know. I wasn't aware of like the discourse around the Spider-Man 3
Yeah.
and how people really didn't like that movie. I thought it was a fun time, and also like the black suit. I was like, that shit goes really hard. Venom I thought was really cool in that movie. As a Sam Raimi monster, it's cool as a character. Not so much in that movie, but that's whatever.
I want to gag,
I see.
bro.
I see.
I want to gag.
I see you like trying to hold yourself back. Spider-Man 3 is a better movie than The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Okay, there's no hands down. Like as weird and wacky as it gets, it's a Sam Raimi thing, and I understand a lot of like the production issues, but I still think that movie is way more watchable and entertaining than The Amazing Spider-Man. So that's my hot take.
One day we'll have an argument. That's not a hot take. That's what I feel like the general take is, bro.
I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, I love Andrew Garfield's interpretation of The Amazing Spider-Man. It's really the only thing that those movies have going for it is his version of Spider-Man.
According to the rest of the Spider-Man fan base, you need really good just general web swinging to be considered a good Spider-Man.
All right,
I think that's ridiculous. That's me being.
I think the web swinging at the end of Far From Home is actually really good. So, sue me, but that's my opinion. I think people. Yes, the Home trilogy does get a little bit bogged down by what I'm gonna call the Marvelitis issue, where some of the CGI stands out. It kind of doesn't look real, but it's fine, guys. Okay, there's been worse. We've gotten way worse, especially in recent years. So, anyways, we should actually talk about the movies. As you guys can tell, are all 15 subscribers. We really like Spider-Man, and so I've been dying to talk about any of the Spider-Man movies. I would love to talk about the Sonyverse too, because I have thoughts about those. But we're talking about like real Spider-Man right now.
Good Spider-Man too.
No, yeah, good Spider-Man, really good Spider-Man. So, yeah, Brand New Day is coming out. What's the release? It comes out this Friday on July 31st. Some of the early reviews have come in, because I think yesterday was its like
Premiere.
premiere. Yeah, not world
All
premiere,
I've
but
ever seen is people saying it's like the best Spider-Man, best Marvel, and like I feel like we're in a time and place with Marvel as a whole where I don't think I take those comments as lightly as I feel like one would if we were talking about a Marvel film like 3 or 4 years ago. Honestly,
no, yeah.
I'd say since the last Spider-Man movie.
Well, you know
You know?
what's funny about that is that because I have all the Marvel movies that I've ever bought up here on my shelf, and it's what's funny is that the last two movies that I have in that catalog is the two Spider-Man movies. Like since Far From Home and No Way Home came out, I haven't bought any of the other movies because I just didn't really think it was worth having. Because I think it was Avengers Endgame, and then like a few months after that,
Far From Home
Far From
dropped.
Home came out, and I didn't buy anything in between that and Spider-Man No Way Home, and then I did buy No Way Home, and that's the last. Those are the last two movies that I have of the Marvel movies, the MCU movies.
Did I ever show you the exclusive, like limited Amazon run steelbook that I got?
You did, but I don't remember what it looked like. I remember it being cool. Hold on, let me.
So this is like one side.
Oh, this is the No Way Home one? Oh, that's actually
Yeah, this is the No Way Home one.
that's actually really cool.
So, bro, I got this for like 35-40 when it first dropped.
So do you have the other ones?
Yeah, so I do, but like not in the steelbook because they didn't make things like this for the other two. The other two, I
Really?
just have
There's
the
not a
regular.
steelbook?
There are, but not from like Amazon that look like in this fashion, to my
Well, yeah. I
knowledge.
mean, each one's probably going to be different.
It's my favorite steelbook of all time, though.
Yeah, I don't have any of the Marvel steelbooks. I didn't know what steelbooks were until like fairly recently, and so I've been gradually increasing my steelbooks, and I did pick up the Evil Dead.
I know, I'm
I think it was
jealous.
like what the 45th anniversary.
Yeah,
Um,
40th,
no, 40th isn't right because it came
83.
it came out in 81, so I think yeah, 45th is probably the right.
Yeah, 45th. Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, I've been growing my collection of steelbooks. But anyways, yeah, so that's really cool. Don't you have the Venom one too, or something? Show that one too. That one I remember being
Bro,
kind of
I
cool
hate it
too.
because it's such a cool.
But it's a shit movie too. Like
Such a
it's
bad
the sequel
movie.
one, right?
Yeah, but like, look how cool this is, bro.
Yeah, it's
Like,
so cool. Like Andy Serkis, I think
hold
he's
on.
a great actor, but I don't. I think he fumbled
Yeah,
the
like,
ball with that one.
but like, dude, it's so cool. I also want to add a little note about Spider-Man, bro. I'm gonna get a little
Okay.
wholesome for a second.
I mean, Spider-Man should be wholesome, so.
No, like, bro, there's something like really special with Spider-Man as a boy who grew up in Queens, bro. Like,
Oh, I was wondering when we were going to talk about this. I think this is a really good talking point because I know that you probably really like Spider-Man for a very different reason than I do, but it all has to do with like our upbringing, which I think is really important here.
no, yeah, because I think a lot of my reasoning for why I like the first home movie Homecoming is a lot of because I'll just get this part out of the way. Everything he does in that movie is kind of everything I did as a high schooler in New York City, going to school in Queens and to middle school and everything. I literally took the exact same train line he was taking as I overlooked. Like, so when you first see him sitting on the 7 train in the front while the city skyline is in front of him and he's talking to May at the beginning, that is exactly the type of view I always had whenever I was taking the 7 because the 7 was my main train line for me when I lived there. And so going to the bodega, getting the same orders, like, bro, when Coming came out, I think what it came out 16, right? Not 17.
I think it was it no 2017 2017
Okay, dude,
because I was a freshman in high school.
I was a junior in high school. So for me, when these films all kind of came out, I feel like I kind of evolved with this version of Peter as well.
I feel the same. Yeah.
And I think like going back to what my question was before about who our Spider-Mans were is yeah, I guess Tobey Maguire's technically my Spider-Man because I was growing up with him and watching Spider-Man and he's the one who got me like really into it. But dude, I would say Tom Holland for me hands down is the Spider-Man just from these three films. And I think in the trailer for Brand New Day, he just looks so comfortable and relaxed playing Peter Parker. And like,
You mean
also,
in contrast to another movie we saw him in?
well, like I said, I don't think he's bad in Odyssey, but you
No,
can
I don't
see
either. Yeah.
it's text, dialogue, and action that he's not used to in the same way that he is with this.
Well, I mean, it's the meme that's been going around that like he's never been on a real movie set until he did the Odyssey, which is
Hey,
kind
he
of
did
true.
Cherry,
But
bro. He did Cherry.
okay,
No, I'm
bro.
joking. I'm joking. It was a joke. Relax, bro. Don't kill me.
Sorry, when you said Cherry, I thought you were making an inappropriate joke.
No, the movie Cherry.
No, yeah, I forgot about that one. But no, yeah, I agree. I think it's interesting the you saying like you were a junior and I was a freshman because and I agree with you. While I do have a soft spot for Tobey Maguire's version of Spider-Man, just because when I was a kid and I was getting into movies and I was getting into like superhero movies, those were the movies that I watched. Like more than anything else. Okay, well, the first one I didn't have Spider-Man 2 or Spider-Man 3. I saw them like a couple of times, but yeah, when Homecoming came out, it was a really formative time in my life because I had just become a freshman, and I think it came out as I was in high school. I'm trying to remember where's the.
I mean, dude, literally throughout Homecoming, when Peter's being bogged down by what he wants to do with his life and his choices, like freshman year of high school, you do get some of that, but dude, in junior year, that's when you actually like truly start thinking about it. And for me, it's just like I was watching that movie and I'm like, damn, bro, what am I even gonna do? I remember watching this movie in theaters and going like, fuck, bro, who do I genuinely want to be? And like, not to skip around too much on the film itself, but I think that's what makes the Vulture Michael Keaton like talk at the end with Peter when he finds out he's Spider-Man or puts the pieces together.
Yeah.
Because he wants what's best for a teenager and recognizes it's a teenager. And like, I don't know, there's so many things that Homecoming does in that same sense where I guess I'll fight back at the Iron Boy Jr. accusations.
All right, see, that's something that I always thought was really stupid because
I thought it was nonsensical because I feel like the movie kind of acknowledges that exact standpoint that people are talking about, and his whole Peter's whole journey, not even just through Homecoming, but through this 3-story.
I mean,
arc.
mainly Homecoming too. Like,
Yeah, but like each film, his main problem is because he creates it, and it's not him learning from his own decisions. You know what I mean? And that's why I think the ending of No Way Home just hits so well. Is
oh
because
yeah.
it's such a sacrifice that he finally does realize. And I think that's like what's also really exciting about going into Brand New Day is you finally feel like you see this more grown up and exposed version of Peter that I feel like people were expecting on getting by the third movie. But I kind of like how they strung it along over a 3-film arc. I don't know if you feel the same way.
No, I agree with you. I mean, I haven't actually watched all three of them like back to back like this before, but in doing so, and this it affirmed something that I already felt about the movies, which is that I think the Spider-Man Home trilogy are probably the most cohesive and consistent films in all of the MCU, which is crazy, but I mean, it is Spider-Man, so
I'd even argue that Spider-Man's just the most consistent throughout the
no,
MCU
yeah, he is.
outside
Like his
of
characterization is
yeah.
the most consistent as well. Like I just think everything about and again, a lot of this has to do with John Watts. I know everyone's making fun of him
I
in
appreciate the
comparison,
fuck out of Jon
but
Watts.
I think he did a really. I mean, Home or sorry, no, Far From Home is like by default like probably the lowest one, but I still think that's a really good movie. Yeah, it has issues, but by the time you get to the end of the movie, do you really care? Like, I think by the time you get to the end of that movie, it all wraps up really nicely, and you feel satisfied with. I know I did. Every time that I've watched that movie, I've been like, oh yeah, I really liked that. And I mean, No Way Home was such an event of a movie, especially after Endgame. Like, can you and this is the other thing too. Like, I've been telling you, I feel like more people are excited about Brand New Day than Avengers
Which
Doomsday.
I feel like more people are more excited about Brand New Day than they were about No Way Home. And
Yeah,
everyone knew what No Way Home was going to have in it, you
pretty
know?
much. Yeah,
So that's why, like, I. Spider Man just transcends so many different characters, and I'm not even just talking about comic book being adapted to the big screen type of characters. I'm just talking about characters as a whole
no,
that
yeah.
just transcends anyone else with how powerful of a fucking name Spider-Man Peter Parker has, because I think that's what Homecoming does so well, and what I think Jon Watts brings so much to in like this first movie is really capturing that true high school innocence
That's why it's my
that
favorite.
you kind of get in Civil War, but I only noticed it the first time while watching it back now, or just this time, I should say, this rewatch. But I never realized that Peter doesn't truly web swing throughout the first movie, and he only does like. And he does like minor somersault stuff, you know, where he's just kind of acrobatic. And I found that really interesting that they're so detailed in trying to show us that he's not this well structured Spider-Man, even though he has all these gadgets. And they even go out of their way throughout most of the film showing he doesn't know how to work it, even in the baby step protocol or whatever that stuff was called in this movie. And it goes to show you that even the smartest people also just like don't understand everything. You know, no matter how easy something may seem,
Yeah,
not everything's as easy in life for some people as others. And I think that's why Spider-Man works as a character still and up to this day, is he's so many different characteristics of a lot of people that exist in this world that I don't think you can find in most characters.
yeah. He's Spider-Man is easily the most relatable
Yeah.
superhero, and it's something that I've kind of always known. But again, when I was rewatching Homecoming, I was just like, oh my god, this dude, this little dude is just he. I think he's
Just
like
trying to help.
he's a true everyman, if that makes sense. And a lot of people have been talking about like, oh, I'm so glad that Spider-Man is going to be miserable and broke and everything. And again, it's funny, but I think the true core of that idea is that it's relatable. He's not Iron Man, he's not Batman, he's not some fucking trust fund kid. Stan Lee, I'm pretty sure, has said this before. Like, the idea is that anyone could be under the mask, and even like Peter as a character, as an individual outside of the Spider-Man moniker, embodies that truly in just the way that he acts and his personality. And going back to what I was saying earlier, yeah, when Homecoming first came out, I was going through the same things that Peter was going through, because I had just started high school. Literally, when I saw that movie, by the time that I saw it, I had just started high school, because it came out in like the summer of 2017. So I was a freshman. I was going through all those things. It was an interesting time, and it was worse for me too, because I had been homeschooled for the first 2 years of middle school, and then all of a sudden, in eighth grade, I was back in like, public school. So I was still trying to like adjust to that, and the idea of, going in to a school, meeting new people, having new experiences. And I think the thing that really made it for me is just that, I don't have any of that stuff about, like, being on the same subway line and, all of that stuff. But for me, what really hit me, especially on this rewatch, was I really related to this version of Peter because I think Tom Holland does a really good job of portraying, like, the awkwardness. Because you respond really well to the him being a New York kid growing up in Queens.
But the awkwardness also goes to that because you're this one person in such a big world in the city too. Like even though it's Queens, it's still you
I mean,
know
for me specifically, it was just like the high school experience, and
yeah
less of like the geography of just you know I was the like semi nerdy, weird, socially awkward kid, and so I really responded to that, especially this time having it's been a while. Actually, I think I don't think I've seen Spider-Man: Homecoming since I was in high school. I don't think I've actually like watched it fairly recently, so it's interesting going back and being like, oh yeah, that's stuff that that's stuff that I used to have to deal with. So I think that's the reason why I really like Spider-Man, and I think he's one of the better superheroes. And I think this interpretation in particular is one of the stronger ones. Like again, I think we haven't really gotten like a bad portrayal of Peter Parker slash Spider-Man. Not that all of the movies are equally as good, but I do think Tom Holland stands out, and it helps that when I'm when I'm watching. And again, I have seen what Tom Holland looks like more recently, but when I was watching Spider-Man: Homecoming, I was just like, oh my god, these guys actually look like fucking kids. Like Tobey Maguire and all of them, like they're clearly like 30-year-olds playing teenagers, and
yeah
yeah, they're seniors or whatever. But I going back and rewatching the first Spider-Man, it's one of the things that I kind of think it missed the mark a little bit on, like that idea of him like actually growing up. And I think the filmmakers and Kevin Feige and everyone at Marvel understood that for this version of Spider-Man we needed to like go back to the very beginning. Not it does do a similar thing with like the Batman where you don't see the origin, and I'm glad we don't need to see that anymore. That will never be better than like the Sam Raimi version. And at this point, everyone knows that he got bit by a spider and yada yada yada. But I just think that I really appreciated them like actually sitting down and being like, oh, this is what people actually want to see. And don't get me wrong, I'm excited for the adult version of Peter Parker because again, for me specifically, having been the same age as Peter Parker in that movie, in each movie, it's super fun for me to be able to like grow up alongside this version of Peter Parker. Because I'm a broke working person now too, so it's life is sometimes miserable. So I'm excited. I'm really excited to see the continuation of this story.
Yeah, I totally get it. Fucking, that's what I think this first Homecoming film just does so well. And it makes you want to fall in love with Peter first before wanting to fall in love with Spider Man. Because I think Civil War already kind of achieved that
No,
in
yeah,
that
100%,
sense.
100%.
Because, like, they had the one scene with Peter, but then a lot of it's just he's in the action scene. And I still gotta say, the opening of this of Homecoming still so good.
It
Watching
is.
him like vlog that experience of going to Germany and fighting the rest of the Avengers, like it's one of those things where I turn it on and it kind of feels like one of those classic openings to a superhero film because for me it's not a superhero showing off their power or doing this really big set piece action fight scene for 10 minutes of them looking really badass and cool, but it tells you exactly who the character is and the character you're going to watch throughout the entire movie and how silly and wacky and goofy he is, but at the same time he's got these extraordinary powers. And I'm trying not to talk about it now, but I really like how the Homecoming trilogy does their own version of with great power comes great responsibility, but I'll get to that but when we get to No Way Home. Um, I also think in Homecoming they perfectly use Iron Man because I don't know if you remember this. Do you remember the first few trailers? Iron Man was all over the movie. There's literal scenes and shots that they took out from the trailer that aren't in the film of the two of them like swinging and flying around New York City
Oh
that
yeah, yeah.
never
I
made
mean,
it in or
dude,
like were
literally,
just there to sell the film. You got like the picture of the exact shot I'm
dude.
probably
Yeah,
talking about.
on the cover, this is
Yeah,
literally
literally,
like the exact shot. So
literally.
I don't know. You know, again, I mentioned earlier, I don't agree with all
Iron
this
Boy Jr.
sentiment. Yeah, like yeah, he kind of is, but he isn't. Like obviously, they're. I like his role in the movie because they're using it to say something about Peter Parker and using it for his arc. Like I mean, yeah, it's not the deepest thing, but it's very inherently Peter Parker and Spider Man that you know, yeah, he does mess up. I don't think he's entirely wrong in this situation. Like I think he was doing what he thought was right, even if that is guided by some sense of, you know, naivete and
But I think that's like part of that message at the same time is even if you think you're doing the right thing, it might not always be because, you know, I think it's also the simulation between Peter and Tony Stark himself because this could have also just not happened if he just said, "Hey, I'm following up with what you said and I'm on it." You
exactly.
know?
Like that's the reason why I think that scene is so good because
Yeah.
not only is both Tom Holland and Robert Downey Jr. acting their asses off, and they have really good chemistry,
Really good
like really good
father-son
chemistry, which is
bro.
why is another reason why I think it works. Like obviously Robert Downey Jr. is like a generational actor. Like we just talked about him in Oppenheimer. He's really good in it, even you know regardless of what you think about like the quality of
I agree.
his
I
character.
agree.
But you know he's a standout in that movie for sure, and you know he is Tony Stark, and you know
Tony
he
Stank.
I think this is something that I kind of don't feel about you know the whole Doomsday thing where like I think for this movie Robert Downey Jr. like came in and he knew like I'm not the focus of this movie. I am here to support Tom Holland, and he does that to like perfection. And that scene is it's just so good because you understand both perspectives. Like you understand why Tony is kind of being like a hard ass, but you also feel really bad that Peter Parker is like getting talked down to, even though you know, like in his little heart, he's just like, oh, but I just wanted to be like you. Like it's so like soul crushing, and I think all of these movies do like a really good job of like those moments where Peter Parker kind of just has to sit there and be like, damn, I fucked up. Which is another thing that, you know, I am very familiar with, like that feeling of like, ah, shit, you know, I fucked up and I don't know how to fix this and whatnot.
Well, Tony's reply back to him is what hits the nail on the head for
Yeah,
like me in that scene where like I don't want you to be me, I want you to be better. And like, dude, that if that's not like the most parental line of all
it is. It
time,
is. It is
the
super parental.
and like that goes for like a lot of this trilogy. I feel is like they get a lot of those growing up beats perfectly, and I think Tom Holland executes all those moments really well. And I think everyone is casted really well throughout these movies.
I think, yeah, all the adult figures and
Just like so funny, but like they got all these like comedians to do it too. These stand-up comedians.
yeah.
And like, bro, I'll always laugh when they're in gym and the
Oh,
gym
and he's like,
teacher.
oh, yeah, I think he's a war criminal, but I'm
I think
required by the
he's
state
more,
to show this.
but also Captain America points to the wrong side of the screen because he's not standing
Oh
on the
yeah,
right side.
yeah,
And just like the little things like that is what I think really help define and form this movie is they give Peter such a unique environment away from the rest of the MCU characters that we also haven't seen in
yeah.
all the other like adaptations that I think work really well. My only not issue, but the one thing I wish they could have done better was make the threads between Homecoming and Far From Home of the little friend group being a little bit more prominent.
I agree with you on that,
Because
actually.
in Homecoming, it feels a lot more Peter Ned centric, and then Far From Home feels very Peter MJ centric, and then it's the group in the third one.
Yeah.
It still works by No Way Home.
I
I
think
just wish going back and watching them, it feels a little awkward just watching them in a row because neither one of the Avengers movies really do anything for his character outside of give him an action scene to be a part of.
I think the only thing, like, I mean, he's not really in Avengers Endgame, and really his only thing
Yeah,
is
just
to,
one
like,
action scene.
Yeah, but
One
I think
big
for
action scene.
Infinity War, I think is still a good, like, continuation of that story, especially because we get that moment between him and Tony where Tony, like, you know, dubs him an Avenger, which I think is good. But the thing that I noticed mainly in going straight from Homecoming into Far From Home is that it springs up the whole MJ relationship like very out of nowhere because you know we spend so much time in Homecoming with him crushing on Liz, which it's fine for what it is. Like I understand the point of it,
It's
but
just supposed to set up a good reveal.
the thing is that like MJ is not in the movie very much. And you don't. She has like a handful of scenes where she says like a couple of lines, which is it's really hilarious in retrospect because that's kind of like her whole career at this point. Even though I think she's a really good actress and I think people should give her more lines to say in movies. So I thought it was interesting that by the end of that movie where she like gives the reveal of like her name as MJ, to me it's implying that she thinks of them as friends, but they don't have any scenes together really to like show us that. And then by the time you get to Far From Home, they fully commit to like they like each other, and the whole movie is about them like trying to express their feelings. But to me, when I started watching it, I was like, I feel like there's so much time in between that we haven't seen of them interacting to like set this up, and so the movie has to really quickly establish that like, hey, Peter Parker likes her, and he's making this whole trip about trying to like ask her out essentially. And yeah, so that was the only thing for me in terms of like the difference between Far From Home and Homecoming, like you were saying. But overall, it's whatever. You get over it, and as obviously Tom Holland and Zendaya have like really good chemistry with each other because they're dating in real life. But
They're married, bro.
yeah, they're married.
Get it right. You can't be a fan and not know he's married.
But yeah, so it's interesting. Obviously, Far From Home is the weaker, and normally the middle chapter is, but
And the thing is I think Homecoming plays it so safe, but does all of the things so right
it does, yeah,
that
100%.
you can kind of like forgive it for it not truly being like a traditional Spider-Man film, because for me it's more about him internally becoming Spider-Man rather than him being able to jump off these bridges and like fucking swing 60 feet up, doing all these flips and shit, like doing these hardcore angle turns. Like that's not what this film is even worried about. And I think that's why I appreciate it more, because it cares more about the difference between, well, that's what the whole trilogy arc is kind of about. But I like that the film focuses on the Peter Parker / Spider-Man life, and how from Homecoming, he's all about, I don't want to go to college, I want to be Spider-Man, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
To No Way Home.
That's another thing that I had to deal with, bro.
Yeah, dude.
That's literally a plot point from my life where I was just like, I don't think I want to go to college, and because there was nothing that I really wanted to do for college, and I was like, I think I'm just gonna start working. And then I eventually, as you know, I ended up going to film school with you. And like literally, it's just something that was so real to me. I was like, oh my god, this is something that I also like was fighting for my life about. Like, do I want to go to college? Is it worth going to college for me?
Yeah, and then it goes to like Peter trying to impress Liz throughout the entire movie.
All of that stuff is so cute and adorable.
It's so quirky, and
yeah,
this is the most John. I'm trying to remember. Were all three inspired by John Hughes or just this first one?
I think it's just the first one.
Okay, because I think this first one really embodies a lot of
It
John
does, yeah.
Hughes. And I think that's where a lot of the success for the teenager stories come from. Like the Ned and Peter relationship, or no, sorry, the relationship Peter has with the CEO of Sex.
Oh,
I was waiting for you to catch on to that, bro.
that's
Is
such a
just
dumb joke that you just like
it's
ham-fisted in there.
But it will get a laugh out of somebody though, so it's fine. Their relationship is so good in this movie. It feels so genuinely authentic for a teenager in the mid 2010s. You know, it felt like the 2010s was like this pop culture renaissance where a lot of old franchises were kind of returning, i.e., Star Wars, the Death Stars. I found that funny at the time with Star Wars just coming out 2 years before this movie. And so a lot of that being a teenager just feels like, damn, bro, this is what it's going to feel like in like 30 years when I'm like, nostalgia.
It really is, yeah, actually. Well, I think what's interesting about that is that like, I think the Last Jedi had like just come out, hadn't it, that year in 2017?
Yeah, it came out.
Because
No,
2015
no,
was
it came
Force
out
Awakens.
November, I think. So
Um,
it wouldn't have been out, I think, at this point. Because this came
well,
out
it was
summer
coming out, yeah,
2017.
2017. It was coming out in 2017, so
Yeah, released like
it's interesting.
November, I
I mean,
think.
yeah, I'm a Star Wars nerd. You know that if you know, I mean,
It's
you know that, but
unfortunate.
you
I'm
know, if
sorry,
anyone's been
bro.
watching, they know that I'm a big Star Wars nerd. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like this is my favorite just because the arc is so on point, and the performance from Tom Holland's really good, and I think it's set up in a way where you kind of can't not enjoy it. And yeah, all of the moments that it hits just so perfectly because you have the moment where he realizes that he messed up, and Tony takes away the suit. And that line that he has where he's like, "Oh, if you're nothing about the suit, then you shouldn't have it." And then I think the thing that I really like about him making the active choice to ditch Liz and go be a hero is really strong, especially when you realize that he literally he does have to just throw on his old suit and be like, I'm gonna make this work. And so yeah, I just think by the end when he does decide like, oh, I don't need all this, I'm fine just being who I am and not trying to like be like you. It makes sense and it's an effective payoff because the whole time he's been struggling with that idea of like, oh, I need to be this big time superhero, and the rest of my life stuff doesn't really matter. And then he does come to realize like, oh, I need to keep it low key, kind of. I just need to go with the flow.
I think that's what makes that last scene before it cuts to credits really well done when Peter brings him to the new Avengers headquarters and he's like, "You're a new Avenger, you're going to be introduced to the press," shows him the Iron Spider outfit. And then just like, this is where the Peter Parker Spider-Man isms of Tom Holland's performance really came to a front for me is when he just kind of gives Tony that like quirky look, like he knows what he's got to do, and he's not like he's appreciative of the moment that Tony's giving him, but he also knows he needs to grow with himself. This kind of wraps up into the line that I like that he gives in Infinity War to Tony when he follows him onto the spaceship is, how could I be a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man if there's no neighborhood? I know in the
Yeah,
movie they played it for a joke in that moment, but I still thought that was like a really good line
I mean it
as
makes
to,
sense. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying, like as to why Spider-Man would be interacting in these larger than New York City stories. And even in the non-New York story sense, or even in the New York story sense, I still think it works really well. And just seeing him like smile and walk off, like that he knew personally he made that right decision because without Tony taking away the suit from him the first time, he wouldn't have been able to find like this newfound courage within himself that he got from like lifting himself up from I think it was like an Amazing Spider-Man comic book run when he was under all that rubble and
yeah,
he
yeah.
looks at himself and it's like the half spider, half his face
Yeah,
kind of thing going
that
on.
image, yeah.
And he's like crying, and you're sitting there just like, bro, I want to help this kid so fucking bad.
No, yeah, I all of the stuff in Homecoming is like
So
immediately
well done.
iconic, and it's a movie that I've always enjoyed coming back to, which isn't something that I feel for a lot of the other Marvel movies outside of like well, we're gonna get into it later, but outside of like Infinity War and Guardians of the Galaxy, like Endgame, yeah, it was good for the time and what it was trying to do, but it's not one that I return to very easily because it's so long and it's very dense. And
Yeah.
Homecoming is just always a fun time for me, and I'm always ready to just immediately go back into it and just be like, I'm gonna sit down and I'm gonna watch this movie and I'm just gonna enjoy it. And it's also something that I don't 100% feel about like Far From Home and No Way Home, but I still think those are really good movies. And Far From Home, you and I talked about this a little bit. It's it's bogged down by the fact that on a rewatch, the twist. I mean, we kind of already knew the twist going in, but it's worse on a rewatch. The twist it still works in the context of the movie, but it's not as exciting because you're just like waiting for the hour to go by of like them or yeah him being tricked by what's his name, Quentin Beck,
Yeah.
Mysterio.
I think you're kind of tapping into what I think the biggest issue for with the movie is something that I think was out of its control, and
Yeah,
that's being a direct follow up to Avengers Endgame.
I agree with that. Like,
In terms of a creative standpoint, and not just saying that they had the free will to do anything, it feels like they had to do some post Endgame world setup stuff that they needed to do on top of whatever the story is that may be, because now Endgame stuff affects what happens in this world. Like that's how he gets away with his lie, which I'll be honest, like Nick Fury in the movie complains about how he doesn't know anything, and then it's like, thank God for that fucking post credit scene. That's all I'll say. Is because I think that
oh,
was
you
the most
mean the scroll stuff?
yeah, with the scroll stuff, because the entire time it's just so frustrating watching Nick Fury being so bad at his job that like I get the reason, but everything that comes after it doesn't like pay off to anything well. Like Captain Marvel isn't good, Secret Invasion isn't good, none of the scroll stuff has ever been good. And it feels like a weird placement. Feels like a weird placement.
I think on a rewatch, the Nick Fury stuff works better because you do know that it's not really him.
Yeah.
But I remember when I first was watching, I was like, Nick Fury is kind of not like
Stupid.
something's off about him. And yeah, I don't know. But I like his placement in the story in terms of like Peter's arc of like this is the one where I really feel like it's about him like choosing kind of like
Spider-Man or Peter
yeah,
Parker.
Spider-Man or Peter Parker, because it's a big point of tension between him and Nick Fury that like he doesn't want to commit. And but again, at the same time, I do feel very sympathetic towards Peter because it's like, bruh, like, why are you making this teenager do this? Like, he chews out Peter for the whole like drone debacle on the bus, and it's just like, dude, you're the reason why all of this is happening. Like, the reason literally he got caught with his pants down is because you gave him this new suit, and this woman was making him change like immediately, and then
Yeah.
like, yeah, he's worried about his friends because you are putting them in danger by bringing them here because you specifically want him to be a part of this mission for some. The other thing too that I kind of don't understand is why they thought Spider-Man was the one to fight these elemental beings where like his webs are essentially useless. And the thing that again on a rewatch I kind of find a little frustrating is that I don't know how they would have, and it's something that I felt when like the first trailers were coming out and it was really focusing on like the elementals as the antagonists. I was like, how is Spider-Man gonna be the one to like solve these issues. And
It
obviously,
doesn't.
the crux is that they're all drones, and so he can use his abilities in a more interesting way. But I don't know. It's these are things that I think the movie can't help. That it has to overcome, and I think eventually gets to, like you were saying, like the second half of the movie is like really good, and it kind of makes up for some of the issues with the first half in terms of like setup.
I just don't know why the film had to be based around a class field trip around the globe. I don't know
Well, I
why
think it's
this.
because of the whole like the high school trip thing. Like
I
it's
get
a
it,
high
but
school thing to
it
do.
feels like it just like constrains the narrative a lot because I
It
think
does.
what my problem is a lot of the narrative plot points feel very forced and it doesn't feel natural within the story I feel like they're trying to tell. Like the amount of times Peter's just like randomly running off with the teachers noticing and not really ever caring, but acknowledging it just feels so weird to me in this world where you can literally get snapped away in like an instant, you know? And like I get it, there's some good jokes about how the teachers are buffoons,
Yeah.
but I can only get that can only take me so far before I start thinking it's really stupid in terms of a plot point because it just takes away all serious tension of him trying to figure out how to be Peter Parker and Spider-Man on the trip when it feels like he can just be both whenever the plot wants him to be and there's no
Yeah.
actual struggle.
I think for me, like coming out of this fresh, because I told you that. So Homecoming and No Way Home are movies that I didn't really need to rewatch to kind of know how I felt about them. I did. I think it helps for this conversation. But when I was thinking about sitting down and watching them, I was like, oh, I kind of the only one that I really need to revisit is Far From Home because it's easily the most divisive, I want to say, among the fan base on like whether it's like actually good or not, within like the context of the MCU, like as a Spider-Man movie. But I also it's been a while since I've seen it. I haven't seen it a lot. I remember liking it when it came out, and I saw it like once or twice after that. But I actually haven't watched it really since it came out. So there was one that I was like, oh, I need to like sit down and revisit this and really confirm the feelings that I have for it. And the one of the things that I kind of noticed is that in terms of like the plot and the way it's structured, I feel like it kind of gets a little too bogged down by trying to keep the high school quirkiness of it all in the movie when a lot of it is kind of more high concept than the first one was. And like the conflict is less grounded, and I think that's the stuff that I find are kind of at odds with each other. Like it's trying to still be like the high school kid, but then at the same time, because of its placement in the series, like the MCU as a whole, it did come out after Spider-Man had already been to space. So it's kind of like, does any of this really matter anymore? And I think if we had started with some of the stuff, I think we should have started with Mysterio meeting Spider-Man before he went on the trip and setting up the whole elemental plot problem outside of like the opening scene is obviously fake Nick Fury and Hill meeting Mysterio and whatnot. I think it should have been more Spider-Man focused. This way, again, from the get go, we're dealing with this idea of like him not really wanting to be involved because he does have to go on the trip. And then also like we can skip some of the because it is kind of jarring when you go from like them doing like the high school trip stuff and then all of a sudden we have to introduce him to Mysterio, and like the relationship between him and Mysterio it's fine, like it makes sense in the movie, but you kind of get the feeling that again they don't have a lot of scenes together to really like form that be all end all relationship where he eventually gives him the glasses. So I think they could have balanced more of that out and introduced some elements sooner in the runtime of the movie, so that we as the audience would understand what's going on and it wouldn't feel as jarring, and we would know who Mysterio is before, you know, the stuff in with the high school stuff starts happening. But yeah, those are my personal feelings. Again, I still think the movie's really good. I think by the end of it, it works through some of the issues, and it's still a really engaging watch. I do really like Jake Gyllenhaal as Mysterio. I thought he was a good casting choice. And, you know, it's helped that he does have good chemistry. I think Tom Holland just has good chemistry with everyone in these movies. Like, Happy Hogan, too. Like, that was a relationship that I did not think that I would feel so strongly for when I first saw Homecoming. And then seeing, like, the evolution of his relationship with him going into, like, the end of No Way Home as well is, like, really... It's really wholesome to me.
Yeah, no, I agree. And to go back to your point about like Quentin Beck and Spider-Man not really, or Peter not having too many scenes, I think that's like my biggest issue with the movie is it's like the film is told in two halves, the first half and the second half, and the first half is trying to do so many different things while trying to be its own thing. Like, it's trying to explain where the world is after the snap, how it affects these students, because now some of them are 5 years older and one of them likes MJ. And to me, I don't get the point of adding another character into this movie to do essentially what I think Flash could have just done. And it could have just made the rivalry.
That's actually a good point.
Right?
I didn't think about that.
It would have made the rivalry or like the little back and forth a little bit better in this movie, because I wish they found a way to utilize Flash as a character better in these first three films. Just because
is he even going to be in the new one either?
I don't think so, but honestly, you never know. He might pop up for a cameo, because he's just like thrown in to say a funny, mean thing without ever truly like feeling like a bully presence to Peter, I feel.
Not in the second one. In the first one he is, but the second one
he is, but like never threatening. I don't know. I never find him threatening, and I think him being with MJ would give him that threatening force that Peter's powers couldn't help him fix.
I think the only thing about that is that I don't know how they would justify us believably feeling that Flash would ever be like a true rival for her affections. Which is probably why they introduced a new character, so that we would actually be like, oh, you know, maybe Peter doesn't actually stand a chance with this. But I think that's just something that obviously they weren't anticipating when they wrote the first one. And
but it's weird. A lot of what that character does feels very Flash coded. Like when he catches Peter with,
traditional Flash, yes.
That's what I'm saying.
Not the version in that they went with in Homecoming.
No, yeah.
I think it's just a thing where like the version of the character that they wrote in Homecoming does not match the version that we wanted in this movie. So
yeah,
it's a tricky thing. Like, again, it's stuff that I don't think they really could control. But yeah, I don't know. I think overall it's fine. It works for the most part. It's not something that, you know, I know we're harping on this for most of our conversation on this movie, but it's just to establish why I think this one isn't as good as the other ones. Now, I'm not saying that it's bad. It's a movie that I would still recommend, and I still really like it. I like all of the things, again, that it does really well. But yeah.
Yeah, and with this one, I'm really struggling to figure out what it wants to be as a film. Just because I feel like with Homecoming and No Way Home, they both feel very clear what their objectives are for Spider-Man. This kind of feels in the mix, and I think a lot of that is due partially because it came right after Endgame. And I kind of wish it didn't, because, like I mentioned before, this had to do a lot of world building by itself, when Spider-Man never felt like a world building character. And I think
well, he's directly tied to like the New York stuff, and I think that's another reason why a lot of people don't like this movie, because they don't like the idea of Spider-Man doing stuff like being outside of New York. which is it's fair, but
it's fair. But like, honestly, he does all the same things in more old-fashioned buildings. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I agree with what you're saying. It's a weird one, just in terms of its placement, and yeah, I do also I agree that he's not the kind of character where you'd expect them to like set up the aftermath
Of
of
like
like
these
the
big
big Avengers.
multiversal
Yeah, it's
ramifications.
exactly. I understand in terms of like setting up like the stuff with the high schoolers, but it does feel like it kind of goes out of its way. And again, part of it is just they're dealing with this whole idea of like who's going to be the next Tony Stark. And I think that's something that does and doesn't work in this movie. Like I understand the idea of him really trying to figure out like that of like, oh, I have to like commit to this, I have to step up. And it is overall about like him taking responsibility for some of this stuff. But I think the idea of him becoming the next Iron Man kind of doesn't work the whole way through.
Because they already did that in the first one, and they
Yeah, that's what I'm
concluded
saying.
it.
Like
That's
the
my
idea of
issue.
him being like Tony Stark is something that they already played with, and so yeah, I just I don't hate it, but it is this. I think this is the one that kind of cemented people's feelings about like the
The
whole
Iron
Tony,
Boy
yeah,
Jr.
Iron Boy Jr. Which on a rewatch it's a little more noticeable, but yeah, I think it's fine for what it is. I understand what they were going for.
Yeah, this is the one time where I felt like they needed to lay off the Iron Man stuff because it's
Yeah.
like, guys, he's dead now, and I get it, but like when they're showing you murals on the wall, advertisements of like
Oh,
he saved us, you're
yeah.
seeing on the plane of document, like you're seeing all these different world things about you trying to remember Iron Man, and I'm like,
Yeah.
guys, I saw the movie a month ago. I remember him perfectly. Like,
Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
and even going back to it, you still don't forget it, and that's the worst part. Is because you think they're setting it up for if you come back on a rewatch years later, it helps fills in like, oh, what am I missing? But it doesn't. Especially because the beginning, that little newscast for
Yeah.
the
Yeah. The
high school
school
news
news.
station
Yeah.
kind of does a summary of everything you need to know in and of itself about the overall journey that Peter's probably going to go through.
No. Yeah.
You know?
I mean that sequence in particular is kind of a lot to get through because we have like the funny, awkward, edited together memoriam for the Avengers that died, and then you immediately get into like just this shit ton of exposition
Shit
with
ton, bro.
it's just like a yeah, I don't know. It's just I found it awkward on a rewatch, and it's not a big part of it, but it's noticeable. There's a noticeable awkwardness to the way that the movie is structured. But again, Spider-Man's really good in it. Peter Parker, I think his arc is still really good in it. I think they make the most with what they were given, and I still rank this movie like pretty highly. In my overall MCU rankings. But anyways, we should probably talk about No Way Home now before we run out of time.
Well, I'm glad because, dude, I love No Way Home. Like,
I do as
even
well.
I figured on a rewatch it would feel a little old with all of the exciting stuff at the time that was coming with this movie, but it's played so well. It's just played so well in the movie that like I think they made it make sense in context to the overall narrative story they wanted to tell with this Peter, and so it takes away all of the feeling of the cameo, not cameos, but the characters that return, not just the Spider-Man, but like all of the villains themselves. They all have a meaning, and like to me, that's what I think when you're doing this. That's where I think they've done the X-Men stuff wrong with Marvel. Is they haven't done it in any meaningful way towards any character or for any character. So it just kind of feels like a meaningless cash grab. Hey guys, you remember this bald guy you used to like from like 20 years ago? We're going to kill him off for the fourth fucking time. Like, yeah, thanks guys. I appreciate it again. Like, you know.
Yeah, I remember because I saw this movie. I haven't seen it like since it came out, but I saw the movie in theaters obviously, and this is actually the first Spider-Man movie that I ever saw in theaters. Which,
Shut the fuck up, bro.
like, I
That's
never got to
crazy.
see like any of the original Spider-Man movies. I mean, well, by the time, like, I'm
Bro, I
trying to
saw
remember.
Spider-Man 3 in the theater.
Okay, yeah, but you were again,
That's
you were like
I was
3 years
8.
older than me, dude. I was
I know,
fucking,
bro, but still.
I was
That's just
5.
that's just crazy that like I sit here and I'm like, damn, bro, I can't believe I saw Spider-Man 3 in theaters.
But even when like the Amazing Spider-Man movies were coming out, I never saw those in theaters. Which it's probably a blessing in disguise, but um,
I saw the
the
opening midnight release of The Amazing Spider-Man.
oh my god, that's crazy. But yeah, so like when Homecoming came out again, it was a time in my life where I didn't really have the opportunity to go and like watch a lot of stuff in theaters. The only like I did go out of my way to see like the Avengers movie, the last two Avengers movies, because they were just such a big deal. But Far From Home, I again wasn't able to go see that in theaters. But like No Way Home, I was an adult as well. I was just like, oh, I have to go see this movie in theaters,
This is a
especially
need.
because going in, you kind of know that it's just this big. It's a big event, but it's also just this really important like bookend to the entire like past 20 some years of Spider-Man movies.
Dude, it
And
literally
Spider-Man
felt like
has
a
been
bookend to my childhood.
and
That's
no,
how it felt. And that's how it still feels.
I 100% agree with you, especially because I had literally just gotten out of high school and I was starting college as well. So again, all those things about them going to college and whatnot, like I found extremely relatable. And then yeah, just Spider-Man has been such a big part of my life growing up that I was just like, I have to see this in theaters, even if Toby and Andrew weren't going to be in the movie. I was just like, I have to go see this.
Dude,
If there's
no
one
way, though.
Spider-Man movie that I see in theaters, it has to be this one. And so on a rewatch, I was also surprised because I remember the last two times that I rewatched it, I kind of didn't feel the same as I did when I first saw it. Like I felt like some of the magic had been lost. But on this, on this time, I kind of felt the opposite, and it's crazy that I did kind of feel that way about Far From Home instead of this one. I think it still holds up really well. Maybe not. This is really the one where you get like the Marvelitis stuff, especially with like the green screen effects. Like they're not
Yeah.
great, but it's whatever. I think overall, I really enjoyed the way that like you were saying, I enjoyed the way that they brought back the villains. I thought it made a lot of sense. And again, just them tying in the main conflict to who Peter Parker is, and his arc of like growing up. Like I thought that was incredibly interesting that, it's such a human thing of like, oh, I don't want to deal with this thing that's happening, but I want everyone else to be like, what's the word I'm looking for? He wants everyone else that's involved in this integral part of his life to still be involved in it. Like he doesn't want that to go away, and it's a super relatable thing. And so, again, right off the bat, even though we know that it's his fault, you still really feel bad for him.
Because it goes back to he's still trying to do the right thing.
Yeah, he is. He is trying to do it. And that's the other thing too. Like, you never get the feeling that he's doing it out of this selfish need. Like he genuinely just wants his friends to be okay. And again, I really like Benedict Cumberbatch's Doctor Strange in this movie. I like him far more than I do in his his own solo movies. And I think he's a really good addition. I love the way that these movies in particular use the other Avengers characters, and I think it's something that I'm interested to see how they're going to use like the Punisher and Hulk in Brand New Day in comparison. But I think he fits in nicely as again this like authoritative adult figure who like he even says like I forget you're a kid sometimes, and that's just it's an interesting dynamic in this one. And again, when you get to the end and he realizes what Peter's asking him, and he's just like, "We'll all forget about you." And you can see it in their faces that they do connect on that human level there, which is something that I really appreciate whenever I go back to the movie.
Dude, I'll be straight up with you. I would say I don't think I've watched this movie a single time, and the last 20 to 25 minutes damn near make me cry every single
It's
time.
so
And
emotional.
and that's not even me being hyperbolic or me be it's not even my fandom for Spider-Man either. I think the film just hits every single fucking beat it needs to by the end of this movie.
No, yeah.
And in like going to the scene you were talking about where they're finally connecting through that admiration of he's finally growing up. Doctor Strange is realizing he's making this grown up choice, but you also realize that he cares about him and doesn't want to forget about him just through like those subtle hints through the dialogue and the acting that you're just like he still has to go talk to the other Spider-Man. He still has to go talk to MJ and Ned. Like he still has a fuck ton of other people to have an emotional core with, and to have that moment between two characters that really haven't had a lot of screen time or moments together outside of Infinity War. I think it goes back to like what you were saying again, how these movies utilize the Avengers characters really well because it feels like Stephen Strange in this movie is a different mentor to Peter than Iron Man ever was, but not like in a typical mentor sense. Like I don't know how else to explain this because he's not trying to be his mentor, but he very much acts like his mentor.
To me, like Tony was more of like a father figure, and
Yeah.
then in No Way Home, it is more like the mentor. Like they're not. It's not a relative situation. Like he doesn't view Strange as like a found family like father figure or anything.
No, but that's what I like about that moment at the end. You feel like they've connected past whatever that camaraderie was, you know?
Yeah, I think it's an interesting dynamic that they play with because obviously, at the beginning, Strange says like, "Oh, we've been through too much for you to call me sir." And then, obviously when he does have his outburst with Peter, I think you know that he's frustrated, but it's just this idea of like, oh, I have to deal with this kid, and we don't understand each other really well, even though we have been through all this stuff. And then once you get to the end, you do realize like, he still cares about Peter as a person and as a friend. And it's just, like you were saying, there's just like that generational difference of like Peter doesn't know how to deal with these situations very well. And so when he's confronted with these issues and when it's being played out in front of other people who are just like, this is obvious to me, they don't understand how to like interact with each other. And so yeah, by the time you get to the end and he is, making this grand sacrifice, Strange realizes like, oh, I was wrong about you, or we were wrong about each other, because they both think they're doing the right thing. It's just, Peter is so they're both stubborn about it, but Peter is so innocent essentially and kind of more naive.
Well, the problem is he thinks he can just save everybody. And Doctor Strange knows that can't happen. You
Yeah.
know? And that's where a lot of the moral confrontation comes from, I'd say. And I think Doctor Strange, the reason why every time, like even after he leaves him in whatever dimension, the mirror dimension that he puts him in, which are you could tell that Doctor Strange is still kind of keeping his cool. And I really like that he still respects and has an appreciation for why Peter's going through all this,
Yeah.
even though it's causing like these multiversal rifts at the same time.
I mean, you can tell that Doctor Strange doesn't. He's not doing any of this out of malicious intent, even though you
Yeah.
do understand that he's frustrated with Peter as like a person. But I never during that fight I never felt like Peter was necessarily in danger, and that's why the whole fight scene is built on them fighting over this like MacGuffin, which I think the movie uses the MacGuffin really well in comparison to like other movies. Rise of Skywalker. But anyways, um, so it's just it's a really interesting conflict that they have of just like, oh, I think this needs to be done a certain way, and the other person doesn't feel that way. And I think it makes it more interesting. It's not like, oh, I hate this little kid. I'm just gonna fuck him and I'm gonna do whatever I want. It's much more nuanced than that, and that's something that I also really appreciate when I revisit it. But yeah, we should talk about the Spider-Man.
Dude, I don't even know like where to begin because the scene still gives me chills watching.
Which one?
When they both
There's
go
too
through
many
their
to
own
count.
portals, when they both come through their individual portals, bro.
I think the Andrew Garfield one is better. I think it's set
I
up better.
agree.
It's and
The
I
ultimate payoff is when they swing together and land on the
that's
head.
that's true.
It.
That's true. But I think I don't hate the Tobey Maguire one. It feels
Kind of awkward.
Yeah, it's kind of just mundane.
Dude, just
And
like standing on this dark ass roof,
and he's in like a robe and whatnot, and I was just like, I feel like the entrance could have been done better. But the Andrew Garfield one is just chef's kiss, bro. Like, and it's cool that he's the one that they introduced first, and I do appreciate that they give him like his moment, especially knowing that his movie just got canceled for. I mean, there was a reason, but he couldn't do anything about it, and he never really got to like finish off his time as that character and like pass the torch essentially. And so I do like that he gets his fanfare moment when they do introduce him. And he comes in, and then he takes off the mask, and it's just like, oh my god, it's fucking Andrew, he's back. And I will say though, I think that both of them fit back into their roles very nicely.
Perfectly.
And that was something that I also really enjoyed. And I like the little bits of like backstory that we get for them, from like what happened after their movies ended. I thought that was all really cool, like the stuff with Toby and
I thought the Andrew Garfield stuff was really good, like with him like being so like where we saw him last being so down and distraught over Gwen Stacy's death. And I really like, for me it adds the emotional depth to something so simple with his character that I know at the end of Amazing Spider-Man 2, it shows him putting the suit back on and then fighting Rhino again.
Yeah.
But I like knowing the fact that it took him a while, even after coming to terms with putting the suit back on and what that entails in terms of the risks. Because I really like how the Spider-Men are being reintroduced after
May was killed,
and he has his own "with great power comes great responsibility" moment, which also brings a fucking tear to my eye because Marissa Tomei and Tom Holland are so good in this scene.
I was not expecting her to die in this movie. That was the one like truly genuine surprise when I watched the movie. Like her death scene, and I love the way that it plays out too. Because like obviously there's the shock of like the bomb going off, and you're like, oh my god, is she okay? Is she okay? And then just her taking that moment, like despite all the pain and delirium she's probably in, just to give Peter that one final parental pep talk. Pep talk. And then watching her and Peter have that moment where they kind of both realize like, oh, this is really bad, like she's hurt really bad. I don't know. It's something. It's something that I never really felt about like the Uncle Ben stuff. Even though I know that's really like a formative thing for the Spider-Man character, like in the comics and in like the other movies. But I appreciated it that it was someone that we spent a lot of time with, someone that we endeared ourselves to in the whole franchise. Because and even in like the all the other movies, like Aunt May is just such a constant presence in his life that I think him losing her in this movie works so well in like hurting him as a character, but also hurting us as an audience, because we also feel like, oh my god, we're not going to have this character to keep him grounded. And it works for his arc where he does kind of take on those darker leanings that Andrew's Spider-Man alludes to.
Yeah.
It's all just so really well done. Like I don't know how else to put it.
I think Aunt May's death scene is kind of where the entire film comes together for me. I think it starts off a little slow. That's whatever. It doesn't bother me too much. the film takes a minute to get into.
And not as long as like Far From Home, though.
No, sorry. It's not that it takes it. Once it starts, it takes like a quick break of like everyone being like, "Oh, you're Peter Parker, you're Peter Parker." Once you get out of that, everyone just finding out it's him for the first time. Which, by the way, that was a fun fact I wanted to tell you. Did I ever tell you this? So they were shooting this the 1 year I stayed in a college dorm in Manhattan.
Are you serious?
Right next to where they shot this. So I watched them shoot the scene at the end of Far From Home at the beginning of this, so the street he literally drops down onto, that block, and watches the J. Jonah Jameson reveal is exactly the block that my dorm room was on.
Dude, that's fucking crazy. That's so cool. Right? Did you record it at least?
No, I didn't because it was so busy, bro. It was so busy.
You should have
And to make it even better, you know the donut shop bakery that they go into in the beginning and at the end? That
you mean where MJ works? Have you been there?
Dude, I used to live 10 minutes away from there.
That's crazy.
That's Peter crazy. Dude, it's Peter Pan's Donuts in Greenpoint, Brooklyn.
Oh my God.
Some of the best fucking donuts I've had in my life.
That's funny.
I cannot tell you how many times, not directly in the bakery, I've had that like Peter Parker moment of seeing a girl. And like, but like, I've walked around that diner and like, I've had that same exact thought in my head where he goes in and wants to talk to MJ and sees his friend. He's like, you know what? I shouldn't. Dude, I've done that so many times, and seeing that, bro. Another thing.
That's fucking crazy.
Have I ever told you this? The building that Happy lives in the movie is the same building that I went to elementary school in.
Wait, what? Like, you mean the exterior?
Yeah, the exterior shot. The building that he's supposed to live in.
That's hilarious.
Yeah. The first floor is an elementary school that I went to in there. So watching this movie for the first time sent me through a fucking rave, bro. I cannot tell really you. Funny.
That's cool. You should have recorded that.
And then you also have the Pepsi sign, which I've sent you many photos of when I visited New York.
Oh yeah.
The one from Madam Web, the big third fight, bro. Anyway, I'm not reminiscing about all
the most important New York landmark that they could have put in that movie.
Dude, literally.
I really love everything about this movie. Like, as a Spider-Man movie, as an MCU movie, and as a Tom Holland Spider-Man movie, it fires on all cylinders throughout the whole thing. And it's I feel like this one's endlessly rewatchable in comparison to like a similar movie of Deadpool and Wolverine. Like, I have not rewatched Deadpool and Wolverine since I saw it in theaters, and it's
one of those funny first time you watch it, and then kind of becomes
all the Deadpool movies are like that, but
but I feel like Deadpool and Wolverine, for me, each time I've seen it, it's become unfunnier and unfunnier. And that's why I don't go back to it. This film, Spider-Man No Way Home, has the exact opposite from what you're describing in that issue, where it's a bunch of meaningless cameos that don't influence the plot, characters, or anything. They're just there for nostalgia bait. And nostalgia bait isn't bad, but when you do it right, like No Way Home, it enhances the film you're seeing rather than enhancing it because, I remember that guy, you know?
No, yeah, I agree. I
really like the moments of them like having their three little back and forth like in the lab, and then
dude, all the scenes of them interacting are,
dude, they're all so good.
They're all so fucking peak, man. Like, I don't know how else to describe it, because it's something where you'd think that they wouldn't have, again, like, really good chemistry with each other, but they really do. And it's crazy because, again, each version is so inherently different from each other that, you don't run the risk of being like, oh, these characters are just the same and it's boring to watch. And I think they do a really good job of, like, writing each character and giving them their moments when they're interacting. Like, dude, my favorite part in the movie is still when they like reconvene like mid battle. And they're talking about like Peter 1 and Peter 2. Like, that shit's so fucking hilarious. And like them being like, what the fuck is the Avengers? Like, is that a boy band? Are you in a boy band? Like, it's all just so funny,
Damn,
and it
I wish I
always
was
gets a
as cool as
laugh out of
fighting
me.
an alien in space.
I know, right? Like, I just it's really funny, and again, it's nostalgia in a way that like I think enhances the story because it's about them bonding together. Because you want to feel, the relationship is real, so that when they eventually do have to say goodbye, it is emotional, um, and it's a good payoff. So
To kind of piggyback off this point, I feel the same way about the scene when they cure everyone but the goblin and they all have like those small interactions with the villains.
oh
Like,
yeah,
dude, when Toby Maguire talks to Doc Ock for the first time again, and like they have that like bro, that is like another moment where I wanted to cry. Where he's like, "Peter, my boy, how you've grown," and like the small little winces that they give back to each other are just like the movie does such a good job at giving us so much context and emotion for all of these years that we've seen these characters and we have not seen these characters, and you get that feeling in the performances that I feel are so wholesome and genuine to who the individual characters were, because then they go to Andrew Garfield going back to Max, and like it's not as deep as I think the Doc Ock and Tobey Maguire moment is, because they had more of a personal connection.
yeah.
But I still think it fits in tone to who Andrew Garfield's Peter Parker was and to what that universe is. And I still think they're good moments because it shows Tom Holland Spider-Man who they are. And it kind of proves to him who he needs to be for the ending of the film, when like he has to make the choice and he has to not kill the Green Goblin after the Goblin kills Aunt May. You
No,
know?
yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know what else to say about this movie. I think like it's.
How heartbreaking is the fucking ending? Like, dude.
Oh,
every
you mean
time
when
I
he chooses to
when he actually chooses and it happens. Like, dude, the scene of him going to his apartment and then going to try and talk to MJ and have them try, like, dude, all of that is so fucking good and so sad. Like, it is as peak of a Spider-Man story or ending as you could get, I feel.
No, yeah, I agree. It kind of reminds me of like in the Tobey Maguire movie when he decides not to be with MJ at like the funeral for Osborn. And I think it works better in No Way Home, but it kind of reminds me of that like idea.
Well, I think the reason why it works in No Way Home is because the reason why he put himself in this situation cost more lives than it should have. Like, Aunt May still could be alive.
Oh,
you know what
yeah.
I mean? Like,
Yeah.
stuff like that. And, dude, the moment between Peter and Happy at the gravestone is also super heartbreaking.
It is. Just the entire end of this movie is just like the worst. Like, you got to bring like a full box of Kleenexes when you sit down to watch the movie, because
Dude, I straight up tear up every moment at the end of this movie. Like, I'll tear up when it starts, and then I feel better at the end, and then the next one starts. I'm like, oh my god, bro, Peter, why'd you have to do this? Like, I don't want to see you like this, bro. You already you lost your fucking aunt. You lost Tony. Like,
I will say though, I think the biggest solace that I can find in how sad and tragic the ending is that at least you know that in May's dying moments, she still remembered who Peter was.
yeah, and that's like the most heartbreaking thing, and that's why like the moment between them at the gravestone works so well. And going back to what I think you were saying when we were talking about Far From Home, the way that they've kind of off the side crafted this relationship between Peter and Happy is something that I didn't know I'd grow to appreciate by the end of this rewatch more than I already thought I had when I first watched these movies. Because it's like another wholesome relationship of another, like, not a father figure in the same way Tony was.
I think
but
it's more
you
like an
could-
uncle or something.
more, yeah, like another family role for him.
Yeah.
That, you know, him, That's the thing is when you pick up in this movie, you could clearly tell Happy and May are having trouble in their relationship. But to me, it seemed like they were struggling actually admitting that they liked each other. And I think that's where a lot of their relationships. I know it's not like some deep thing that they've gone into, but like that's how it read to me. And for me to like see him get over his issues with Peter that he had in the first Homecoming movie.
Well, I think that's something that I really like about the ending of Homecoming 2 is that, you know,
He compliments him.
it keeps reminding us that, like, you know, Happy doesn't really, you know, want to be bothered by this stuff. He's just like, "Oh, I don't want to be a babysitter for Tony and his fucking
But
kid."
he still cares.
And then by the end, when he realizes that he was again wrong, I do like in these movies a lot of the adult figures kind of realize that they were wrong in relation to like how they treat the kid. But anyways, that's just a side tangent. I think it's just, you know, he realizes that he misjudged Peter as a person, and he comes to like respect him, and like, you know, he thanks him. He's like, "Thank you. I really, you know, I would be nothing without this job." And then that just informs the rest of their time together when, you know, in Infinity War, they both have to deal with the loss of Tony. And then in Far From Home, you do realize that, like, yeah, Happy is like the only person that he can talk to now. You know, he's lost everything else. And he's the only one that truly understands this life that he's leading. And that's one of the other moments that really gets me in that movie, where they meet in the field, and
I was just about to bring that up.
they do have that moment where, like, you know, the joke.
It's the best scene in Far From Home, in my opinion.
I agree.
Like no bullshit.
It's that scene, and it's the scene when MJ and Peter are talking on the bridge, and they're like trying to confess to each other. But anyways, yeah, I think, you know, they have that moment where, like, he's asking, like, "Oh, tell me something that only you would know," and he, you know, has that whole joke about the pay-per-view. But then, like, the moment when they hug each other, dude, it's so what's the word I'm looking for?
Ingenious.
Yeah, I don't know. It's such a great moment between them of just like, oh my god, yeah, these guys really, they have been through a lot together. In a similar but kind of different way to like Doctor Strange.
Yeah,
it's more like emotional thing. Like they've been through an emotional thing together of like knowing Tony, and, you know,
I mean, that
all
speech he gives him about not being Tony because no one can be Tony,
dude.
It's a fantastic speech.
Tom Holland is acting his ass off in that scene too. Like it's crazy. Like I really felt in my heart like that Peter was really going through that struggle of like, oh my god, I truly messed this up. He's essentially lamenting, like, I gave up the one thing that, you know, Tony left for me.
Well, it's like those last few words he has at the end of that speech. It's like, you don't have your suit, your friends are in danger, and you don't have your glasses. What are you going to do about it, Spider-Man? And like, to me, that is so inherently who Spider-Man is. And I think that's why their relationship works a lot, is because I think Happy brings out a lot of the Spider-Man Peterisms of the character, specifically with like the quirky nerdy stuff, or being the guy to help bring him his super suit when he really needs it, or like being his guy behind the computer, because Ned was only kind of that for the joke in the first movie, but it feels like Happy turned into that by the end of the trilogy. But yeah, like No Way Home just pays off all of these relationships so well.
It really does, and that's another reason why I feel like it's the most cohesive set of films in, you know, because like Captain America, kind of not really, even though like the last two are directed by the Russo brothers, it still feels very kind of inconsistent, and it's not a trilogy that I would watch like back to back on its own. But yeah, I feel like in this one it's way more cohesive because you can clearly see the through line in each of the movies for the overall trilogy, and that is, you know, most relevant in terms of like the relationships with the characters. But I don't know, I can't get over how well these movies fit into like the overall MCU and like with each other like separately. But yeah, and you know, again, going back to the Happy thing, that's something that would not be in the movies if he wasn't Iron Boy Jr. So get
That's
fucked.
crazy, bro. That's
Anyways,
crazy.
I think we should go into our rankings.
Are
So
we
we're
doing
not.
Spider-Man rankings or what rankings?
I didn't think about the Spider-Man rankings. We probably should have done
Because I'm
that,
like, I
but
don't even know if I have those ranked.
I actually do. You know what? That's funny. I do actually have them ranked, but we don't have to do that one.
Or do you want to do top 10 MCU? Since did you hear that apparently
think
there's
we
not
should-
going to be an MCU film next year outside of Secret Wars? So they're only doing TV
Really?
next year. Yeah.
That's an interesting decision, but okay.
So we're doing top 10, right?
Top 10 MCU.
All right.
We'll do Spider-Man rankings next episode when we talk about the new Spider-Man movie.
Yeah, I like that better.
Okay, so you go first actually on because you have interesting choices. Let's say for your
So
top.
are we doing our first 5 and then
No, just do
talking
the
about
whole.
it?
Just do the top 10.
Okay, at 10 I have the Fantastic Four. 9 I have Civil War, which I've already told you I think I haven't watched it in a few years. I think I could switch
Wait,
it
which
out
one? Sorry, say
now.
that again.
Civil War.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Then I have Shang-Chi at number 8. Then I have The Winter Soldier at number 7. Endgame at number 6. Homecoming at number 5. Guardians 1 at number 4. Thor Ragnarok at number 3. Spider-Man No Way Home at number 2. And then Infinity War is my number 1 spot. I hope I said that like slow enough and concisely enough so someone could keep up.
No, yeah, I think you did. I think you did.
Okay.
So yeah, for me, are we including the films or just the films, or
Let's just do the films right now. Let's not
Okay,
overcomplicate
okay,
it.
okay. So hold on, I have to do some quick math because
Because none of the shows are in my top 10.
Okay, so for me, my number 10 is Spider-Man: Far From Home. You might not. That might sound odd considering how much we kind of just spent the last hour and a half bashing that movie, but again, I still think it's a good movie. Next, we have Thunderbolts or the New Avengers, if you want to be pretentious. Then I have the Avengers from 2012. And then next is Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2. I know that's probably not a lot of people's favorite, but I really like that movie. And then we have Spider-Man No Way Home. Are you booing my placement of Spider-Man No Way Home?
No, Volume 2.
I think that movie's overhated. I think
No Way Home is way too far back. It should be higher up.
no, because of the movies that I have in front of it. So
Don't gaslight yourself.
Thor Ragnarok is number 5. Number 4 is Avengers Endgame. And you know what? Actually, does that make sense? I think No Way Home should be higher than Endgame. Okay, I might have to redo this.
Yeah, bro, I'm telling you. No Way Home
okay, sorry.
is so much better.
So, sorry, I'm gonna change this mid talking. So I said that one was number 10. That one was number 9. So Guardians of the Galaxy is number 8. Number 6, I'm gonna put Thor Ragnarok. Number 5, I'm gonna put Avengers Endgame, and then number 4, I'm gonna put No Way Home. Number 3 is Homecoming.
Top 5, I'll take it.
And then number 2 is Guardians of the Galaxy, and then number 1 is Infinity War.
I'm impressed. Me and you have the same number 1. I do find that funny. Out of everything we disagree with,
I don't know. I feel like Infinity War is easily the most rewatchable, and I think in comparison to like Endgame and a little bit No Way Home, I think it's the pace is really good, and I think the structure makes a lot of sense. Like it feels, even though it is trying to be like this, part of a bigger whole, it is the most narratively cohesive in terms of like being an individual movie. But yeah, so hold on, I have to change this real quick.
and then you want to do our scores for each one, and then we'll do final wrap ups with that.
Yeah.
Fire.
So yeah, you go first.
All right, so for Homecoming, I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. Probably one of the more rewatchable MCU movies, I'd say. Spider-Man: Far From Home, I have a 3 out of 5. And then Spider-Man No Way Home. I don't know if I've ever done this on the show, but 5 out of 5
For No Way Home?
for No Way Home.
That's
Brand New
interesting.
Day might change my mind, but I think No Way Home is the quintessential Spider-Man film.
Wait, sorry, what did you give Homecoming?
Homecoming 4.5 out of 5.
And Far From Home?
3 out of 5.
That's crazy.
Oh, which one? Far From Home?
I know I'm gonna regret asking this, but what the fuck do you have for TASM 2?
What do I don't think I even have it in here.
Hold on, I can. Oh my god.
What do I have?
Oh wait, sorry, I was looking at the wrong one. Okay, you gave it a half a star.
Yeah. I
For
can
TASM 2?
recognize how shit it is, but still enjoy it, bro.
Okay, I mean, okay, that's fair as long as it's not higher.
Bro, I also, by the way, I give Spider-Man 3 a half star too. I don't have it on here
You
because I haven't
did?
watched it in a while.
Dude,
It's not on
that's-
here, but
you
I would
have
give
it. You said that you watched it, but you didn't rate it. That's
Well-
crazy. No, there's no. Okay, we won't get into that. We'll get into that next week. Anyways, for me, I gave Homecoming 4.5. I'm honestly shocked to see on here that it has a lower. The average is 3.5. I feel
On
like that's wrong.
Letterboxd?
Yeah, like
That seems really low.
that's really low,
Like, not even a
especially
4?
because this one is the. I think this one is the better of the three. I think like as an individual movie. But yeah, I don't know. It's that's interesting. Far From Home. I think I'm gonna change that to a 4.
Crazy.
And then for No Way Home, I'm gonna change it to a 4.5. Yeah.
Crazy. work,
That's
bro.
that's what I'm gonna say. I'm gonna give it. Oh, I haven't rated Far From Home on here. That's interesting. But yeah, No Way Home. Yeah, I think that's a 4.5. I think marginally Spider-Man Homecoming comes ahead, but they're both equally good. I think as a Spider-Man movie, Homecoming is my favorite, and No Way Home is just really good as like the end to the trilogy and like the overall like Spider-Man era, if you will. So yeah, next week we are talking about
My most anticipated
Spider-Man
film
Brand
of
New
all
Day.
year.
I feel like I anticipated the Odyssey a little bit more, but I think Brand New Day is a high contender to be one of my my top pick for the best movie that I saw this year. At least in terms of like when we talk about like our end of the year video that we're gonna do, similar to last year's. But yeah, so we're gonna talk about Brand New Day. We're gonna go see it. I'm seeing it on Saturday. I think you're seeing it opening day.
Yeah, I'm seeing it Friday morning.
And yeah, we're gonna come
I'm gonna
back
try and see it twice before
That's
before
crazy.
we talk about it. Dude, I'm literally gonna go the Monday after
That's
next
interesting.
Monday or something. Too on top. Of
I don't
it,
think I'm gonna have time to do that, but
Dude, I'm literally gonna hump the chair in the movie theater.
all right.
I'm so
Calm
ready
down.
for it,
Calm
bro.
down. But yeah, I think this is one of the most anticipated movies of the year, rightfully so. For a while there, after I think it was after Far From Home, we were kind of unsure about like the status of the deal that Sony had with Marvel for the rights to Spider-Man as a character. And I'm really glad that we got No Way Home, and I'm really glad that we're getting Brand New Day, and I'm excited to see what the future of Spider-Man in the MCU is going to look like. So,
And it seems like they want to do like another trilogy, so that's exciting.
I
at least.
really hope they do, because
I
it'll
hope
be
they
the
do.
longest running Spider-Man interpretation, let's say.
Yeah, I mean, he's already getting pretty. I mean, I guess if you consider the other two coming back in the last No Way Home, I guess he's pretty far off. But like a consistent stay.
Yeah. No,
I know what you
100%.
mean.
But yeah, so stay tuned for that next week. Let us know down below if you agree with what we said about the Spider-Man Home trilogy. How do you rank the Spider-Man movies? How do you rank the MCU movies? And yeah, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Uh, and yeah, we'll see you next time.
Peace.